Setting up Timez Attack for your school is very simple and intuitive. Just go to bigbrains.com, click on School Use, choose Mac or Windows, run the installer. You might need to agree to some security prompts that pop up. As soon as it's downloaded, you just quickly run through the very simple installer. You'll run this once on each computer. If you're on a Mac, you'll just double-click the DMG you downloaded. It will instruct you to drag the icon onto your desktop. Then you'll just double-click the Timez Attack icon. Once you see the startup page, go ahead and choose School, assuming you're at school, or Home if you're at home. You'll start off by selecting your state, then your district, and your school. Note that if necessary, you could add your district or your school, or select private schools or charter schools. Then you just click on the Educator icon, choose to go ahead and set a password, enter a few facts to confirm you're an educator at that school, and finish up by creating one password for educators and a second password for the students. And now you've got your school mostly set up. You just need to add some classes. It will prompt you to do this automatically, but you could just hit the Add Classes button if you need to. You can type or paste in a list of classes, then select each class, and choose Add Students. Then you can type or paste in a list of students, and that's it. Once you've done that for each class, your school is completely set up. You can then click on individual students to see their student report. To view a classroom report, just select a class and then choose View Class Overview. From the student page, you can also just click on Play and launch the game. Now, the very first time you launch Timez Attack, it will take a little while because it has to download and cache all its gaming assets. After that first time, it will launch very quickly. If you want your students to play Timez Attack from home, just send them to bigbrains.com, have them click on School Use just like you did, then have them download either the Mac or the Windows version and run it. Once they've downloaded and installed Timez Attack, they just double-click the Timez Attack icon, and they select their school as you did, and enter the student password you created for them. Then they're presented with a simplified interface where they can select their class, their name, and press play. When Timez Attack first starts up, you just select which character you'd like to play. You can choose either Scratch or Candy, and you get to watch the great little intro video that gets the story rolling. Scratch and Candy have been imprisoned in the Dungeon of Ignorance. The only out is to overcome their ignorance and become multiplication masters. As Timez Attack gets started, the first thing it'll do is give you a quick tutorial. To walk, you just press the W key. To look around or steer yourself, you slide the mouse left to right. Or instead of the W key and the mouse, you can just use the arrow keys to walk forward, backwards, and turn left to right. So right up front, the game just lets them practice these skills by walking and turning a little bit to go and collect these little X's. To jump, you hit the space bar. It lets them quickly practice that. Now it starts getting them ready for a short little pre-test to see what facts they already know. We recommend you use the number pad to enter numbers. Then it lets them practice entering numbers. If they hit a question during the pretest that they don't know, they can just skip it by pressing the space bar. Then, so that we can correctly process their pretest and post-test data, we just have them choose which grade they're in, and we begin the pretest. You can see on the left-hand side here, it's going to keep track of how many questions have been asked. Altogether, there's going to be 66 facts, excluding reciprocals. If they don't know an answer, they can just skip it. Over on the left-hand side, you'll see that it's keeping track of which ones they get correctly and which ones they miss. And they just continue to go through this environment, collecting the X's and working their way through the pretest. If the whole pretest just gets too hard, they can skip the rest of it by holding the space bar for 3 seconds. At the end of the pretest, it shows their results. These will become much more meaningful when we take the post-test and are able to see the improvement that they've made. And we've made it through to the end of the first little environment. The game automatically saves our progress at every checkpoint. Once we've finished the pretest, it lets us choose which environment we'd rather play in, either the dungeon or the palace. We sometimes call the palace the friendly palace because it's a little bit gentler. Once the game fires up, you can see we've got some hints down at the bottom that tell us what we need to do in case we forget. basically we just drop down this hole and we run find the first key. The key turns on these doors. It asks us a question, and then it provides a visualization of what that question means. In this case, it's 2 groups of 2. Each of those groups of 2 then spits out a snail that represents a group of 2. Once we collect those snails, we throw them back at the door to build the answer a second time, 2, 4. And once we've demonstrated that we understand why 2 times 2 is 4, then it lets us actually type in the answer. And now we've got a friendly ogre who comes out to make sure we've got that down. Now this ogre is actually very sophisticated, but at this point he doesn't think we know very much besides 2 times 2. So about all he can do is ask us 2 times 2 a few times and then let us move on. So he gives us his key that will go and enable the next door. So we come down the hall to the next door, where we get a question and a visualization of the next answer. In this case, it's 3 times 2, 2, 4, 6. Then we come and build the answer a second time, 2, 4, 6. From the beginning, Timez Attack teaches reciprocals. So in this case, 2 times 3 has been reversed to show 3 times 2. In other words, 3 groups of 2. When we see it next time, it might be the reciprocal of that, 2 times 3. Now the friendly ogre comes out and he wants to pull knowledge from as deep within our long-term memory as possible. So his initial question is not 3 times 2 like we just barely learned. Instead he's going to pull 2 times 2 from our memory because he feels like he's guessing we can probably still remember that fact that we learned a moment ago. And then he's going to ask us 3 times 2 after our short-term memory has been cleared out by answering 2 times 2. And we'll build on that a little bit, as you can see in the next example. So we come to the third option here. We have the key to unlock it. We turn it on now. It's 4 groups of 2. 4 times 2 could also be 2 times 4 if we flipped it around. We build our answer, 2, 4, 6, 8, as we collect all those snails. And then we come back and we throw them at the door. You throw them at the door using the mouse key or the F key. We watch us build our answer, 2, 4, 6, 8. Then it lets us start answering questions, and the friendly ogre will come out. Now he's not going to ask us 4 times 2. Again, he's going to pull that 2 times 2 from as deep in our memory as he thinks he can get away with, always gauging whether he's successful or not. If we miss a question and we can't quite remember it, he lets us know the correct answer, then he lets us practice it, and then he starts once again pulling facts from as deep in our long-term memory as he calculates he can. Once he's sure we've got it down, he goes ahead and gives us his key. Now, this particular ogre is a little bit more challenging. To get past him, he does more than just make sure we have a really basic knowledge of the facts. This ogre wants to make sure that not only can we sort of remember and figure out these facts, he's going to ask them to us rapid fire enough, and he's going to mix them up back and forth enough to make sure that we have genuine recall. That we're able to just know the answer when we see it without having to think about it and without having to calculate it. Now we keep covering facts in this manner until we've covered the entire first batch of facts. There's typically 12 facts per environment. If you feel like you know all the current facts and you'd like to challenge this entire level, you can just press the escape key to pull up your progress bar, and you can see here that every once in a while these facts shift back and forth to show you the reciprocals that they're covering. So when it teaches 4 times 2, it's also teaching 2 times 4. If you feel like you know this entire batch of facts, you can always just press the challenge button, and that will take you straight to the final boss at the end of this environment to prove it. So the final boss comes up and he just asks us the 12 facts that we should have learned by now. When he's done with his evaluation, he gives us a simple assessment of which facts we've completely mastered and which facts we still need a bit of work on. So in this case, I only missed 1, so he's going to take me back to work on just that 1 fact before letting me come back and try again. And once I've passed them all off correctly, it passes me off. Congratulations. And it then unlocks this side door over here so that I can move on to the next environment and the next set of facts. And it automatically saves my progress at every checkpoint. Once I've passed off one environment, it automatically moves me on to the next environment, where it starts teaching me a new set of facts. Now, if you're in the free version, it'll give you the opportunity to go back to the beginning of the dungeon environment, or the friendly palace, and go through it again, but this time it would be feeding you the next set of facts. So you would still be in the same environment, but the educational content would increment. Once I've passed off 2 full environments, the game's going to pull me into a component we call retention. The basic point of retention is to go back through all of the facts that I've mastered and make sure that I'm holding on to mastery of all of them. It's going to keep track of any that I might be having a problem with. Retention is a little bit forgiving. If I mistype a fact, it will give me a second chance on up to 10% of the facts given. So if I just make a mistake, it'll give me another chance. But if I miss it twice, or if I'm making a lot of mistakes because I don't have them completely mastered, then it will bring me back. It brings up a quick little report to show me which facts I've mastered and which ones I seem to have forgotten. It'll then pop up a couple little helpers to help me really focus on anything that I'm struggling with. And I'll go back and try it one more time. Make sure I've got all the facts down completely. And as soon as it's sure I got all the facts so far down cold, it lets me move on to learning the next set of facts. It opens up this little teleporter here, and we can just jump in and it'll take us on to the next environment. And if I take a look at my progress report now, you can see I've passed off retention 1. That means I've passed off that entire set of facts. And now I'm working on the lava world. I can challenge the lava world if I want to, and you'll see that soon I'll move on to retention 2, 3, 4, and just continue progressing until I have every single fact mastered all in a row. And once I've mastered the next dozen facts, it's going to pull me into the second level of retention and make sure I'm retaining mastery of all the facts so far. Starting with the second round of retention, if you're in the free version, you'll still be constrained to this little portion of this island, but if you have any kind of upgrade, you can move on to the other portions of retention that are a little more entertaining. And this retention process just continues until we get to the final round of retention, in which you demonstrate complete mastery of every single fact 2 through 12. Note that if students are unable to pass off retention after the first 3 attempts, it will automatically start getting easier for them, but it will record whether they pass off the final degree of retention at a lower degree of difficulty. Now, once we've successfully mastered all of the facts and passed off the final level of retention, it will bring us to the post-test. We strongly recommend the students take a break before taking the post-test because they've just finished a very difficult round of retention, and the post-test will be very challenging as well. They're now ready to make their escape from the Dungeon of Ignorance. And now it shows up with my post-test score. And then this is a huge accomplishment that these kids have made by this point. They've got every single fact down cold. The way that we've set it up, they're probably going to have an extremely solid retention of that mastery as well. So congratulations to them. Thank you.